This is the 25th day in the Gaza-Israel war, and yesterday the IDF conducted a major maneuver into the Palestinian enclave, going 7 kilometers deep and separating Gaza into two, the northern part and the southern part.
In a dramatic turn of events that has sent shockwaves through the international community, Russia has just deployed troops on the border of Israel, declaring its support for Gaza Palestine. This unprecedented move has raised questions about the balance of power in the Middle East, the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and Russia's motivations behind such a strategic maneuver. In this video, we will delve into the intricacies of this development, examining its historical context, potential implications, and the global response. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is one of the longest-running and most complex conflicts in modern history. Rooted in historical, religious, and political factors, it revolves around the competing national aspirations of Israelis and Palestinians, both of whom lay claim to the same land. The core issues include borders, the status of Jerusalem, the right of return for Palestinian refugees, and security concerns for both sides. Over the years, this conflict has resulted in numerous wars, territorial disputes, and countless casualties. The international community has been actively involved in seeking a peaceful resolution, with varying degrees of success. Amidst this backdrop, Russia's sudden military deployment has added an unexpected dimension to an already volatile situation. To understand Russia's move better, it's essential to consider the historical ties between Russia and Palestine. The Soviet Union, the predecessor of modern Russia, established diplomatic relations with Palestine in the early 1960s and recognized the Palestinian Liberation Organization as the legitimate representative of the Palestinian people. Throughout the Cold War era, the Soviet Union provided political and military support to various Palestinian groups, including the PLO, which was led by Yasser Arafat. This support was part of the broader ideological rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union, with both superpowers vying for influence in the Middle East. With the end of the Cold War and the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991, Russia's involvement in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict dwindled, and it began to focus on other global and regional issues. However, Russia maintained diplomatic ties with both Israel and Palestine. In recent years, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has seen a resurgence in violence and tensions. The United States' decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel in 2017 was a contentious move that further complicated the situation. This decision was met with strong condemnation from Palestinian leadership and many Muslim-majority countries. Furthermore, the Trump administration's Deal of the Century plan, unveiled in January 2020, was seen as heavily favoring Israel and was rejected by the Palestinian Authority. These developments have left the peace process at a standstill and have led to sporadic outbreaks of violence in the region. Russia's decision to deploy troops on the Israeli border in support of Gaza Palestine raises several questions about its motivations and goals in the Middle East. While Russia has historically maintained diplomatic relations with both Israel and Palestine, its military intervention in the region marks a significant shift in its stance. One possible motivation for Russia's move is to assert itself as a major player in the Middle East, challenging the dominance of the United States in the region. By aligning itself with the Palestinian cause, Russia may be seeking to position itself as a mediator and power broker in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, potentially gaining leverage in future negotiations. Furthermore, Russia's support for Palestine could also be driven by a desire to strengthen its ties with Arab countries and the broader Muslim world. This move may resonate positively with countries that have been critical of Israel's policies in the occupied territories, potentially enhancing Russia's diplomatic and economic relations in the region. Another factor that cannot be ignored is the economic dimension. The Middle East is rich in natural resources, particularly oil and gas, and Russia has a significant interest in maintaining stability in the region to safeguard its economic interests. By intervening in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Russia may be trying to influence the course of events to ensure regional stability. Russia's troop deployment on the Israeli border has been met with mixed reactions from the international community. While some countries have expressed support for Russia's stance, others have raised concerns about the potential for further escalation in an already volatile region. The United States, a staunch ally of Israel, has voiced strong opposition to Russia's move. The U.S. government has called on Russia to withdraw its troops and refrain from actions that could destabilize the region further. The United States sees this as a direct challenge to its influence in the Middle East and a potential threat to the security of its ally, Israel. On the other hand, Several Arab and Muslim-majority countries, including Iran and Turkey, have welcomed Russia's support for Palestine. These countries have long been critical of Israel's policies in the occupied territories and have called for international solidarity with the Palestinian cause. Russia's intervention aligns with their stance and could potentially strengthen its ties with these nations. The United Nations and other international organizations have also expressed concern over the situation. The UN Security Council held an emergency meeting to discuss Russia's deployment, with many member states calling for a peaceful resolution to the crisis and a return to the negotiating table. Unsurprisingly, Israel has strongly condemned Russia's deployment of troops on its border. The Israeli government views this move as a direct threat to its national security and sovereignty. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued a statement asserting Israel's right to defend itself against any potential aggression. Israel has also called on its allies, particularly the United States, to take a firm stance against Russia's intervention. The Israeli Defense Forces have been put on high alert along the border, and the country has begun fortifying its defenses in response to the perceived threat. One of the most significant concerns surrounding Russia's troop deployment is the potential for escalation and conflict in the region. The Middle East has a history of military confrontations, and any additional military presence, particularly from major powers like Russia, increases the risk of unintended clashes. The presence of Russian troops in close proximity to Israel's borders has raised the specter of a direct military confrontation between Russia and Israel. Such a scenario would have grave consequences not only for the region, but also for the broader international community, as it could draw in other global powers. Furthermore, the situation in Gaza is already highly volatile, with periodic clashes between Palestinian militants and Israeli forces. Russia's intervention could further exacerbate tensions in the area and lead to an escalation of violence. The safety and well-being of civilians on both sides of the conflict are at risk in this volatile environment. Amidst the rising tensions, there have been calls for diplomatic efforts and mediation to defuse the situation. The United Nations, the European Union, and other international organizations have offered their assistance in facilitating dialogue between the parties involved. Russia, as the key player in this crisis, has an important role to play in mediating between Israel and Palestine. Moscow has a history of diplomatic engagement in the Middle East, and its intervention could lead to renewed efforts to restart peace talks. The deployment of Russian troops on the Israeli border in support of Gaza Palestine has created a complex and potentially explosive situation in the Middle East. The regional dynamics are shifting, and the international community is closely watching the developments and assessing their implications. The path forward is uncertain, but there are several possible scenarios. Diplomatic efforts could lead to a de-escalation of tensions and a return to negotiations between Israel and Palestine. Alternatively, if diplomatic efforts fail and tensions continue to rise, the situation could deteriorate into a larger conflict with far-reaching consequences. One thing is clear: Russia's intervention has injected a new level of complexity into the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and its actions in the coming weeks and months will significantly impact the region's future. The international community must remain engaged and committed to finding a peaceful and just resolution to this long-standing and deeply rooted conflict. Russia's deployment of troops on the border of Israel in support of Gaza Palestine has sent shockwaves through the international community and added a new layer of complexity to the already volatile Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The historical ties between Russia and Palestine, coupled with Russia's desire to assert itself as a major player in the Middle East, have motivated this unprecedented move. The global reaction to Russia's intervention has been mixed, with the United States strongly opposing it and several Arab and Muslim-majority countries welcoming it. Concerns about potential escalation and conflict in the region are real, and diplomatic efforts and mediation are urgently needed to defuse the situation. Thank you for sticking with me all the way to the end. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure the notification bell is turned on so you don't miss a video.